Okay, this tutorial is going to look at how we're going to get footage into a timeline, make sure our settings are correct, and once you've made those subclips, or once you are ready to start putting footage together, how to crop things and just put an edit together that looks clean. So for this example, I've got footage from CINESTUDY.org. It's a wonderful resource that's free for editors to practice and try things, and I use it a lot in my teaching because it's just such a wonderful resource. And I'll put all of the information about that in the description. So in my bins here, I've got raw footage, and then in my other bins, I've cut up subclips, but depending on your project, you might not have cut up subclips, you might just be working with raw footage. The reason I've cut subclips up for this particular project is because the rushes are really long, and there's lots of different takes in those rushes. So I've cut them up into different subclips. There's a few things you need to consider when getting things into the timeline. For this example, and the way I teach is we're going to be adhering to British broadcasting standards as outlined by the DPP, which means our frame size, we should be looking at 16:9 aspect ratio, and we should be looking at 1920 by 1080 as our frame size, and our frames per second, we should be at 25 frames per second. So it's all well and good for Premiere to say drop media here to create a sequence, but if I just drop in, let's say, I'm just going to take something very random out of here. When I drop this in, it's going to mimic the settings of these clips. Now, if you've been out and you've shot your content and you are very confident you've shot your content in the correct aspect ratio, in the correct frame rate and all of that, that is absolutely fine. You can drop that in and go for your life. However, this particular project was filmed in America and it was filmed in 4K, so I know the settings aren't going to be correct for what I need. To check this, you can go up to Sequence and click Sequence Settings, and there it will show you what you're working with. So here I can see I'm working with the wrong frame rate, I can see I'm working with the wrong frame size, however I have got the right aspect ratio, which is good. And this is where you can also then change all those settings. So there's two ways you can then do this. If you've dropped something in and then you think, oh no, I've got it wrong, you can then come up here and change it. So you can change that to 1920, 1080, create that right aspect ratio. The time base, in fact you could actually just change editing mode to anything that's 1080i, would normally give you the correct options, but if you are doing it the custom way, you want to change your time base to 25 frames per second. Rec 709 as colour space is absolutely fine, that's not a problem. Audio 48,000 Hertz, all good. And video previews also fine as QuickTime and a ProRes. So then you click OK, and it will say this will basically change the preview that you currently have because it's incorrect. Click OK, and you can see now that my video is actually the wrong size for my frame because it was a little bit smaller, and that's okay. When I click this, I can then go to Window, Effect Controls, and here I've got a scale feature. So there's actually a little slider here once you've got video selected, and if you click, when you see the arrow, you'll see your mouse change when you hover over the 100. You can then click, hold, and drag left and right to change that number. Sorry, mine lagged a little bit there. If you get it wrong, you can do Command Z to undo. That's always a great one. And I'll just show you this now. Now it's too big. I can click and drag and resize it. Or if you want to do it the easy way, you can right click on the segment down here, scroll down and find the set scale to frame size, and then it will scale your video, if you haven't already messed with it, to the size of the frame. I'll do it the manual way for now. So there we go, now I know that's correct, I know it's the correct frame rate and all of that. I'm going to close that sequence because I'll show you the other way to do it. The other way to do it is as follows. So in the last tutorial I said always make a sequences bin, and this is why. So you can either click on the new bin button or you can do Command B, and I'm going to call this bin sequences. One of the most common things I see happen when I'm teaching is that someone will have a sequence open, they'll be editing it. So if I open that one I've just had, they'll have all this open, then they'll accidentally close it. So this little X is just closing your timeline. This is not deleting your edit, this is just going to close the view of your sequence. And people go, oh, I've lost my edit, it's gone, I've lost it, I'm never going to see it again. The reason being is that when you just drop media in, Premiere will create a sequence. The sequence is the visual representation of what you're editing, and those kind of blocks or segments, that is kind of showing the clips, the audio, text, things you're adding. It automatically puts that sequence in the bin that you have been working in, and you can tell it's a sequence because it has this little icon in the corner. If you hover over it, will say sequence. However, it mimics the name of the first clip you put in. So this is not obviously a sequence to me. It just says wake up 1 because that's the name of the subclip that I put in there. And to me, that's not that obvious. It's a sequence. So you might go looking through hundreds of bins trying to find a sequence that you're never going to find again. If you double click it, it will then open back up to where you were. So that's why I think a sequences bin is so important. This one I'm going to delete for now because I don't need it. But when I'm ready to make a sequence and edit, the best thing to do is open up a sequences bin, come down to this, I call it the post-it note menu. This is a new item menu, but it looks like a post-it note. You click on this and you can make a new sequence. The reason this is the best way to do it is because here you have presets. I can set my preset to HD 1080p 25 frames per second. This is giving me the exact settings I need. There are also broadcast options up here if you want to pick a broadcast option, but this is perfect. This would work for anything you're uploading to YouTube. This is also, like I say, adhering to those broadcasting standards. Then you can actually name the sequence down here as well. If you want to call it sequence 01, that's one thing, but I'm going to call this I'm just going to call it V1 for now. Normally I'd call it the name of the project, but as is tutorial, I like to use V1, V2, V3, so on, because there's not always just going to be one sequence that you edit. Sometimes you change your mind and you want to edit a second sequence, and that's when it becomes really handy to have them all in one bin. And then you can click OK. And then it opens a blank timeline for me, and it puts that sequence in the bin. Again, you can drag and drop these into other bins if you need to move them. That's not a problem. And then when you start dropping footage in, Premiere is going to make your footage the sequence settings rather than making your sequence the footage settings. Hopefully that makes sense.